Imagine this, that just as God expects us to trust Him, we often want God to trust us. So I want to ask this morning, can God really trust you? Now, when we look at the way God wants us to trust Him, He wants us to show a complete dependence on His ability, His will to do things that will favor us. But most time when God wants us to trust Him, or when we want God to trust us, rather, it's a test of faith. He wants to see how we can respond to His calling, to His words, and most time to His silence, because God doesn't only speak loudly. Sometimes He will speak in silence. And it is our ability to understand His words in the moments of silence that defines our faith. Because most time, God will test our faith through the moments of silence. And so, can you trust God in that moment of silence, or when He is doing things that you don't understand? I want to imagine a situation where God just told Moses to speak to the waters, speak to the rock, use your rod and split the waters. Those are imaginable moments that when you read the Bible very clearly, you understand that it's not a moment where you are feeling comfortable. When the Israelites were leaving the Egyptian land and they were being pursued by Pharaoh and his warriors, and in that midst of confusion, I want you to see the situation where in the front there's danger, at the back there's danger, behind there's danger. Subconsciously speaking, you are paralyzed. You are frozen because you don't even know what to do. But it's at that moment that God looked at Moses, seeing the confusion. God could have said, Moses, are you confused? Don't you know what to do? Just use what is in your hand and strike the waters. And so if you are frozen, or if you are confused at the moment like that, you hardly notice or get clearly the message that God wants to pass. But thank God that Moses was able to recover from the shock, and then he followed the instruction. And then the miracle happened. And so that is the model that God wants us to use, especially when He wants us to trust Him. Because like I said in the beginning statement, it's not enough for us to trust God. God also wants to trust us. We want to trust God. God wants us to trust Him too. And God wants us to trust Him. And so, another scenario is when Joshua was asked to conquer Jericho, or when Joshua was about to conquer Jericho. That's when Moses have already departed or gone. And so I wanted to imagine where God told the Israelites that you're not going to fight these people. I know I've told you to kill and clear and destroy all the nations that are occupying the places I've given to you through promises. But as for this Jericho, you're not going to kill anyone. I'm going to cause them to kill themselves. So Joshua, after the spying engagements, they were able to find what I was saying, information. But God said, I don't even want you to use this information. Just what I want you to do is to surround the city gates, sing, shout, and then allow me to do it the way I want to. And so sometimes it's also very wise, spiritually speaking, for Christians to be attentive and to follow instructions, because Joshua, they have engaged in so many wars, so they have understood the strategies of war. But God wanted to teach them a new lesson. They cannot completely depend on the intelligence of your experience. Most time in our human world, we talk about experience being a teacher. Yes, experience can be a teacher, but when it comes to spiritual things, God will bypass that your 100 years of experience and teach you a new lesson. And so God told Joshua, tell the people, just surround the city gates, sing, shout, in fact, walk around it. It would have assumed maybe the senior military officers in Joshua's military camp would have thought that Joshua is mad. How can he ask us to surround and walk around and shout and just... Doesn't that sound foolish? But that is a man who follows God's leading, because sometimes when you follow God's leading, it may not make sense. People may look at you as someone who is insane, because what God tells you to do sometimes does not agree with logic, does not agree with human experience. But of course, we know how this story ended, that Joshua, they surrounded Jericho, they walked around for 7 days or maybe 7 times. And then they shouted, they blew their trumpets, they followed the ordinances, the rules, the regulations, the leading of God. That was how Jericho was conquered and destroyed. Think about this. That sometimes God asks you to take a route that has not been traveled. God wants you to rewrite a story about yourself, about your family, about something. And sometimes it sounds strange to follow that leading, because what he's asking you to do does not make any sense. Should we talk about the story of Gideon? Gideon has prepared to go to war with the number of soldiers. And God said, I don't want guys to come back bragging that it was in the number or in the minds of your soldiers that you conquered the Midianites. I just want to teach you a new lesson. So the first lesson, let's go to the riverside. And they went to the riverside, and God said, watch how these people are going to drink water. It was a test of how to drink water. And of course, some of them lapped like the dog and drank some, put their mouth there, and God said, oh yeah, filter. And they filtered. And God still said, this number is too much to reveal my miraculous power. Are you sure you're not doing too much? That you are not noticing the miraculous hand of God? Are you sure you're not thinking